All right, guys. Very excited about this message. It should be a very short message. I'm going to try to just dive right in and get this wrapped up. Very excited about this one. It's for somebody or some people, and whoever will just grab a hold of this. If you know that this message is for you, if you would just grab a hold of this, it's going to propel you forward. But in order for you to grab it, you're going to have to let go of some stuff of the past so that you can grab it and move right on forward. And in the process of moving right on forward, you're going to have to help somebody else move forward too. You might be saying, well, what do you mean? Well, let me explain. The name of this message is, Hello, Can I Help Me? Hello, can I help me? And I'll explain at the very end of this message why it's called that. Usually I tell you at the start of a message why I titled it what I titled it, but I'm going to wait to the end. But what this message is about is this. In this message, it's going to be almost as if we're going to time travel just a little bit and go back in time and think about our former selves. Look at our former selves. Some of y'all know what I mean. You might watch a TV show, a movie, a cartoon, and there always seems to be that one episode where there's time travel. Maybe somebody builds a time machine. This mad scientist or this evil genius comes up with some time machine, or somebody buys it from some store or pawn shop or something. But somebody makes a time machine and somebody goes back in time, or maybe they have a dream where they go back in time and they get to see themselves back in their past, a younger version of themselves, them in the past. And they'll look and they may say things like, let me try to change what happened back then in my past, because if I can change stuff about my past when I go into the future or back into what was my present, things will be different. Things will be better. If I can just take advantage of this little bit of time I have to be in the past, I can talk to my former self about my latter self. Some of y'all probably already know I'm going to mention something about former and latter rain. You probably didn't already figure that out. But anyway, let me keep going. But if I can just talk to myself of the past, that former me, about doing certain things different, that would alter the course of history for me, which means when I go back, or go forward rather, to the future, which was originally my present. So, in other words, when I get back to what's supposed to be my present, things will be better because I went back and altered my past, which means my future will also be better. In other words, any of the things that I regret from my past, the things that I regret doing, the things I wish I could have took back, the things that I look back and say, man, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done certain things way different. And maybe I'm talking to somebody right now who you've spent a lot of time, a lot of nights, a lot of hours just in bed, crying, in tears, sobbing, and just down and out and depressed because you always keep going back to the past and thinking, man, if I could just change this, man, if I could just go back and fix this, man, if only I knew then what I knew now, things would be so different, and I could live this fantasy life that I play out in my head secretly that nobody knows about because no one will understand, and people would think I'm stupid for wanting to change how things are. But if I could just turn back the hands of time, if I could turn back time, right? If I could just go back and fix it, I would not be in this particular situation. I could be living so much better, so much different, so much more stress-free. I'd have this going on, I'd have that going on. I wouldn't be in the living situation I'm in now. I just wish I had knew back then what I knew now. I just wish I could go back, God. God, I know I'm not supposed to regret this. I know I got to move forward, God, but I just want so bad to go back. If if I'm talking to you, listen to me very carefully. If that fits you, let me say something else. Because if what I'm about to say also fits you, this sermon is definitely for you. And the other thing I want to say is this. Maybe I'm talking to somebody who God has put somebody in your path. You've met somebody, you've seen somebody, you've come across somebody. And you know you could very well help that person out. You see that they're a good person. You see they've got good things about them. You see they mean well. You see, all this good stuff about them. And they remind you of you. They remind you of how you were maybe years ago when you were younger. There's something about them that just reminds you, of yourself. And it's like they got their head on right. Everything's good. But it's like there's trouble coming their way. It's like they're going through these obstacles. And if they could just get a hand from somebody, if they could just get a little help from somebody, if they could get just a little assistance from somebody, they could make it from point A to point B. And you're standing back watching this person. You've been watching them. You've probably seen them in the workplace. You've probably seen them hanging out with your friends because maybe y'all share a particular circle of friends somewhere. Maybe you just watch them on Facebook or some social media, whatever. But you've been watching them and they remind you of you, or rather they remind you of the person who you really are. But it's like you're wearing a mask. It's like you're playing a role. It's like you're being who everybody else wants or expects you to be. But when you see that person, it's like seeing the real you. It's like looking in a mirror almost. It's like time traveling back to the past and seeing a representation of you. And you know you could help them. In fact, God has probably done some things, said some things to you, dropped some hints to you to be of help or of assistance to that person, but you won't do it. You're letting things get in the way of helping that person that reminds you of yourself. And what you don't realize is it's not a coincidence. That person is a representation of you going back to the past, seeing your old self and helping your old self out. Your younger self out, rather. And you may be thinking, I don't understand. That doesn't make sense. It's almost like you're telling me if I would help that person out, it's going to alter my present and future by helping them out in their present to help them get to their future. That doesn't make sense because even though they remind me of me, they're not really me. So that doesn't make sense. But you got to understand it's a setup here. Oh my goodness, I'm getting excited. It's a setup. It's like a test. It's like if, like that song goes, if I could turn back time, it's if you could go back, this person is symbolically you. So it's as if you have gone back in time to help you, but this person is just gonna, that person's just gonna have to do is what I'm saying. That person is that representation of you. But even though it's actually a different person, the effects of you helping that person, helping them in their present to get to their future, it's almost as if God's going to cause it to work for you, to help you in your present situation get to your future. You alter some things for them in a good way. It's going to alter some things for you as if you really had gone back in time to help yourself out. You might be thinking that's kind of crazy. That's a huge jump right there. But that's basically what this is about. Let me show you something. And go ahead and go to Joel chapter 2, while you're getting there, let me say this real quick to kind of set the tone for this sermon. Some years ago, I was with my mom. I don't even remember where we went, but we went somewhere to visit a buddy of hers from back in the day. And, I got there. We got there to her house. And I didn't know her. I didn't recognize her, but she recognized me from when I was a kid. And, as always, every time someone tells me about how they knew me from when I was a kid, they go on and on about, oh, I remember when you used to walk on your toes. You used to walk way up on your tippy toes like this, But anyway, so, we're just kind of standing there talking or whatever. And this woman mentions that she named her daughter Colby. She thought it was cool that my mom named me Colby, even though, I'm a girl, but she gives me this guy's name. But she had decided to name her daughter Colby. So I think I'm like in the living room or somewhere at this point, and the woman's like, hey, Colby, come here. And I look, and around the corner comes this little girl. And she reminded me of myself when I was her age, when I was a kid. Because she comes around the corner. She ain't wearing a shirt. And when I was little, that was me. Because I was such a tomboy. Well, obviously I still am. But you know what I mean. I didn't have breastises at the time. I hadn't developed yet. So I would, just like a little boy would, I would be walking around the house with no shirt on. And so sure enough, here she comes, no shirt on. Hair looking like she just got out of the bed. It's sticking up all over the place, but she don't care. Just like I didn't care. Just like obviously now I don't, because I for real purposely wear my hair sticking up in a mohawk, but that's besides the point. But she comes around that corner, man, and it just tripped me out. And, just her mannerisms and how she acted and how she spoke. It tripped me out, y'all. It just reminded me so much of myself. Had that little chubby belly like I did when I was a kid, because I want to sit there and eat candy and chips all the time. I mean, it just tripped me out, man. It really tripped me out. And I just spent so much time just looking over at her, just observing her, and it was so cool to me. It was like a little mini me. It was like I had went back in time and saw myself almost. And I couldn't help but to later think, what if me being myself, me being who I am, and others like me being ourselves and being who we are, will one day pave the way for more people like us to be ourselves? What if I'm just here to pave the way for her and other girls like her to just be herself? And that's all I could really think of. And that's what came to my mind as I was getting ready for this sermon, getting the verses ready for this sermon. That's kind of like what some of you are going through right now. You're watching somebody. It reminds you of you, or who you would want to be, who you really are on the inside if you were brave enough to be you. But there's something holding you back, almost like you got a spirit of fear about you, holding you back, even though we know the word says that we are not supposed to have a spirit of fear, but a power and of love and of a sound mind. And so your goal now should be to have that mindset. Let me be good to this person. Let me kind of pave the way for them. Let me give them a helping hand. But whoever this is for, it's like you've decided to not do that up until this point. You've decided to not do that, and there may be different reasons why. And there may be some of you thinking, well, give me something to go by, reference, some examples to get your point across on what you mean by I could help somebody out, but I'm not. I'm just going to throw a few examples out there. These may not necessarily apply to you, but it's something that when you hear what I'm saying, you'll be like, okay, I get it. There is a certain area of my life where, I see this person, I should be helping them out, but I'm letting fear and other things, peer pressure and other things, keep me held back, keeping me sitting still. Let me just give you a few examples. Maybe you are somebody who in the past, you've had it rough. Maybe you had a rough childhood, a rough past. Maybe you got caught up in some stuff you didn't need to be caught up in. Maybe you caught a drug addiction, alcohol abuse. Maybe you were doing some very terrible things that you shouldn't have done, things that are not pleasing to God. And maybe you went through this for so many years of your life. And finally, it's like you made an escape. It's like you really grabbed onto God and you gave it your all, and you really got into a way of escape, a way out of the wilderness, if you want to put it that way. And it's like now you see somebody who they remind you of yourself, and you even see similar things that they are going through, things that they're overcoming, but maybe they are trying at a much younger age than you did to get out of your mess, to get out of their mess. And they're really trying. They're really making leaps and bounds that you didn't make, but you wish you had have made back when you were in their shoes. And so they're really trying to figure out how to get out of this mess. They're a good person. They've got good intentions. It's like, everything's going wishy-washy for them, but they're so positive. They're trying to get out. And it seems like every time they get their foot in the door, it's like people want to shut the door on them. It's like people have bad things to say to them and about them. They go on and on about how they don't believe that they've changed. They don't believe that they can change. They still want to view them of their past, even though they're trying to walk into their future. It's just like no matter what, there's always somebody trying to be a hater. And you have the opportunity to talk to them, to see what you can do to help them out. And it's like looking in a mirror image of yourself almost. But for some reason, it's almost like you would rather stand back and watch them struggle and watch them have a hard time getting from point A to point B. And you keep thinking, well, when it was me, or when I was in their shoes, I went through that. So I'm just going to let them go through this on their own. I'm not going to help them. I'm not going to help. I'll just watch them go through it. I'll watch them go through what I went through. It'll make me feel better about myself, because it kind of makes me feel ashamed that it took me as long as it did to want to get out of this mess, and they're getting out early, and it's just like a slap in the face to see somebody like me getting a head start of getting out of their mess. No, I'm just going to watch them. I'm just going to stand back and laugh and be a naysayer just like everybody else around me, even though I don't have room to talk because I was just in their shoes. Maybe that's something. Maybe you see somebody getting out of something bad, trying to get out of something good, and you really could be helping them, should be, but you won't. Or here's another example, example 2 of 3 that I want to use. Maybe they're not in a bad situation. Maybe they're in something good, but they're trying to get to better. And maybe you won't help them out. For example, maybe in the workplace, you had a job, you had it hard, you had a real hard time with some stuff. You were trying to make your way up in that particular career that you were in, and it seemed like people just stepped on you as you tried to make your way up the ladder. People took advantage of you. People downplayed your hard work, acted like you didn't work that hard. And then sometimes when you would pour your heart out to folks with all these ideas and concepts, they would try to make you feel stupid. But then when you turn around and you turn your back to them, they've taken those same ideas and concepts and claimed those concepts for themselves. And then they ended up getting all the credit. And so it left you in the same spot when it was a chance for you to move forward. And so you went through all this hell to move up the ladder, and now here comes somebody who reminds you of you, who you could help, who you could assist. You see them going through some things that you went through. You see that they've got all the bright ideas, they've got all the work ethic that you had, they had all the stamina and endurance, and they're going through all these people trying to step on them, and you could reach down on that ladder that you're on. You could reach down and kind of help them up and assist them just a little bit. Just give them a little boost. Not because you're just handing them out a way up. You're just assisting them into what they've deserved, to what they've worked hard for. Just like how you should already been in the spot that you finally got to, they should already be much higher up than where they are. So it's really not giving them a handout. It's not making it easy for them. You're just helping them, rightfully so, in ways that they should already been helped out. But instead, you'd rather just do like the people standing beside you and just look down and just kind of get your few chuckles in. Because you feel good, because now you look at it as it's your turn to be the one to get to look down on somebody and laugh at them, even though you were just in that situation. And the final example that I'm going to use is probably going to rub some folks the wrong way. It's probably going to step on some toes. It's probably going to cause some folks to turn this video or audio sermon off, depending on if you're watching video or just listening. That's fine with me, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm going to have fun with this. Maybe you're an older person from an older generation, and maybe, just maybe, you've known your whole life that you were gay. And maybe you had it rough growing up. Maybe you come from a time where people were not as accepting of that as they are now, and you know that. You know times have changed. And it's gotten to a point where now that you're older, you've gotten to a point in life where you caved in. You decided to not be yourself. You knew it would be easier to just play the roles that everybody else wanted you to play. And so you went and you found somebody and you started up this marriage and this family with somebody you really didn't want to be with, and you're living this life that you really don't want to live, and you're dressing a way you really don't want to dress, and maybe you live in a certain place that you could care less about. But you know that in the eyes of the people around you, you've really done something. You've really achieved something. They don't know the turmoil going on in your heart and behind the scenes, but in their eyes, you have the life. You have it made. You are living the American dream that they would want to live. So they're in admiration of how far you've come, but in your mind, you're thinking to yourself, man, these people don't even know the hardships. They don't know the hurt and the pain and the bitterness that's been stored up in me over the years, because I spent so much of my life being a people pleaser and trying to impress them. They're impressed by me, but really, I've just been trying to impress them. And so maybe you're at that point in your life, and you've just hid your true self for so long. And now, like I said, it's further down the line, and you see how things are for folks today, and now people are more comfortable being who they are. And maybe you've come across somebody who reminds you of who you really are. It's like you've traveled back in time. They just remind you of who you really are so much. And you look around and you see that things, even though it may be rough for that person, all you can think to yourself is, well, yeah, they may have it rough being themselves, but it would have been much harder for me back in my day to do what they're doing now and to be myself like what they're doing now. And so you may see them, it's like they've got all this confidence in who they are, everything's good, and now you see them going through some things, some issues with some folks really making things hard on them, and it's like you can easily do something to give them a helping hand, something to really help them out, and instead you've decided to let all that bitterness rise up in you, swell up in you, and you want to let all the hurt and the anger and the pain and the disappointments from your past, from how people of your past did you, overcome you. And you've decided to basically take it out on this person that's really just you. You're just taking your hurt out on you, the representation of you, when you really could be helping them out. No, you say no, oh no, 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 no. I come from a time where that wouldn't be acceptable. So, I'm not going to help them out. I'm not going to be good to them. I'm going to be just as mean and just as rude towards them as everybody else is. Because, if I tried to stop living this life and stop pleasing everybody and be myself now, then the same way those folks are doing that person, they'd be doing it to me now. So, no. That's just not the time that I came from. And so all of a sudden you want to cling to that time you came from. Back in your day, even though that time period you came from is what hurts you so bad. It's why you're bitter and sad and hurt. But for some reason, now you want to turn around and cling to those times that gave you all the hurt. Oh, come on. You want to cling to it now. You were wanting to find a way out, and then God put somebody in your peripheral for you to watch, and now all of a sudden you done got jealous, and now you want to turn around and grab the past and all the bad memories that came along with it. You want to get away. Now you want to hold on to it so you can have an excuse not to be good to the you of the past, so that you won't be good to the former you. And here's the thing that I want to say to anybody who this message may be resonating with, whether you fit one of the three examples I just gave, or maybe it's something totally different. It's almost as if you have it in your mind, I'm just going to continue to ignore. I'm going to continue to just sit back and watch this happen. But what you have to understand is the sooner you're willing to help that person that's a representation of you, the sooner you will get the help that you've been waiting on God for. There's some things that you want God to do, some help you're wanting from God, some type of maybe restoration in your life that you're seeking, and God wants to do it, but it's almost as if God is saying, will you help yourself? Get it? It's kind of a play on words. Like when people say, I only want to help those that are willing to help themselves. And God is saying, if you're willing to help that you over there, that one that represents you of the past that should have been helped but didn't get the help, if you can let go of the past and let go of the hurt and lay it at my feet, if you can let it go long enough to help this person who is you back in time, it will affect you. It will affect your present and your future. Oh boy. Joel chapter 2, starting at verse 23, it says, Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month. The joining of the former and the latter rain. That's almost what this is. Kind of like in the TV shows when they're talking about what do they call it, a parallel universe or something. It's like, okay, we're in this universe, but there's another you in another universe. And we got to wonder what the other you in the other universe is doing or something like that. That's kind of like what it is. It's a time travel continuum thing. You're just looking at you, the parallel you, I guess you could say, or the you of time travel, going back in the past, the former, and you're the latter. And if we can just make this come together, in other words, if you can stop rejecting that one that represents you of the past, it will help. It's like a chain effect. It's like a domino effect, a domino ripple. You knock one down and all the rest of them got to come down with it, and it makes this spiral and these circles and these patterns and these designs. It will affect you. It's just a chain effect. The more they move forward, the more you move forward. The more they stay still, the more you got to stay still. The faster they get to move forward, the faster you get to move forward. Because if time is standing still for you, it's probably because time's standing still for them. Get it? So like if you're standing there and somebody could press a pause button on a remote and you just have to stand there, that's basically all it represents. That person being at that standstill Trying to get from point A to point B is really just you. It's a representation of you trying to get from point A to point B. And if you want to get to point B, you might have to help that representation of you get to their point B. And the more they get to move forward, the more you get to move forward. And the faster you go to help them, the faster it's like God's going to do this and just keep pushing you. Get it? Okay. Former and latter. It's got to work together. Here it is, verse 24. And the floor shall be full of wheat, and the fat shall overflow with wine and oil, and I will restore to you. Here it is with this restoration thing I've been talking about. And I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. In other words, what I'm saying is this. You keep thinking, if I could just go back in time. But the funny thing is, while you're watching somebody who represents you of the past, it's not that you need to go back to your personal past. It's almost as if you get to be in your present and move forward into your future. But it'll be as if you get to live your present and future the way that you would have in your past if you could have went back to it. In other words, a lot of the things you wish you could just go back and do, you'll get to do those things in your present and in your future. There are so many things that you may look back and say, man, if I could just do that different, if I would have stayed away from that person, if I could have just met that person sooner, if I could have just started that project earlier, I could have my own business, I could have had, a better car or a better home, or I could actually be somewhere where I want to be and be around folks, friends that really get me for me. Whatever it is that you're wanting to go back and relive so bad, it's not even that you got to change the past. It's just that your present and your future will give you opportunity and open doors to be able to do things and listen, be able to have certain blessings that you walked away from in the past. You walked away from those blessings, playing these roles and wearing these masks and doing what was expected of you. Come on. Not you know what I mean, just doing what you could, and you missed out on some opportunities, and you keep saying, if I could just go back and do it again. But the sooner you help, in other words, as soon as you help yourself, the one that represents you, if you can help them, which is really you, the sooner you help yourself, God will help you. And a lot of the things that the enemy has come in and taken away from you, blessings that were taken away, are things that should have been given to you that ended up not being given to you. Opportunities to do certain things that you could have done, but you didn't years ago. It's as if God will miraculously allow certain things to play out in your life so that you can have certain opportunities again to do things and experience things that you won't be able to do on your own right now because you're stuck. You know there's something better for you. You want desperately to move forward. You keep thinking, God, when am I going to get out of this mess? When am I going to get my healing? When am I going to get my restoration? When am I going to be able to get back the things that I know the enemy has held back from me? And God's just saying, if you would help yourself. Okay. Watch this. And then verse 26, and ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God that hath dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed. You're to a point where it's like you're so ashamed or so worried to be ashamed, worried that you might embarrass yourself by standing out from the crowd and helping somebody that others are not willing to help, that your friends and the people you look up to are not willing to help, that it's really just holding you back. That fear is paralyzing you. It's representing being paralyzed. It's representing you standing still and not getting from your point A to point B. If you can but overcome that fear, Get the power and love and a sound mind. Quit letting the enemy and so-called friends talk you out of what God's trying to get you to do, because it's going to take them out of their little comfort zone. If you would just let God's strength be what empowers you, not trying to find your own strength, but strength and power in God, and love, right? Power, love, and a sound mind. Love. If you could have enough love for that person to help them, really all you're doing is having love and self-respect for, oh my goodness, you're just having love and self-respect for your own self. That's really all it's going to represent. You having that love and that desire to love on them and show them compassion and show them such respect. Really, you're just showing it to you. You're just showing yourself love. You're just showing yourself respect. You're showing yourself some self-esteem. You know, the respect and love and self-esteem that you may act like you have, but you really don't. Because you beat yourself up at night crying, upset about yourself and upset about your decisions of the past because you haven't quite forgiven yourself. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. You don't have to be ashamed. Let me move on to the last place I'm going to take you. Like I said, it's not a very long sermon compared to most of my sermons. But the last spot, 2 Kings chapter 5. Y'all know this story. I've jumped into this story in sermons quite a bit in past sermons, so I won't dig too deep into it. I just want to hit the points to get this sermon completed. Give y'all a second to get there. 2 Kings chapter 5, starting at the beginning, reading that first verse and then skipping down to verse 9, I believe. It says this: Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given him deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. Naaman is somebody who was a captain of men. He was honorable. He had valor. He was mighty. He had everything going for him except for the fact that he had leprosy. And leprosy, as we know in the Old Testament, very much was it was looked at real bad. A lot of people, if you had leprosy, people just looked at you as a sinner. You must have done some very terrible, sinful things to have that leprosy, because leprosy just represented sin. And so just like when you sin, you give in to the desires of the flesh. That's what leprosy did. It ate away at the flesh. It rotted the flesh, ate away at it. It was terrible to look at. It just made your skin look so bad. And it's something that would cause people to shun you. It's something that would cause people to want to push you away, not to push you. They didn't want to touch you because they were worried it would be contagious, but they would want to steer clear of you. And you could be walking down the street and you know, people would go out of their way to yell at others to watch out, to be careful around you. You know, they would yell, hey, unclean, unclean, you know, letting people know, hey, here comes somebody that's unclean. They're a leper. Don't touch them. Don't come in contact with them. And so it could really ruin the lives of people to have this leprosy. And so with that said, whoever this is for, it's like I'm using Naaman to represent your situation. Maybe, like I said, you've done something with yourself in your life. It might not be the life you wanted, because like I said, you were a people pleaser and you did this and you did that, and you're not quite happy with how things played out in your past, and you keep wanting to go back and change this and that. But in the eyes of others, you've done something. You've accomplished something. You're higher up on the totem pole than what others are. And so you're in a position of something. You've got some position or some type of title or something. But you know, you kind of did something. You did something in some area of your life that makes makes other people want to be in your spot, in your position. And so, that kind of makes you feel a little bit better about it. It kind of pacifies you to be where you are and to have people admire you and the position that you're in, because you look at it as, well, at least I'm here. I'm not where I would or could be if I had, took the routes that I wanted to take in life. But you know what? I'm here, and a lot of people would like to be where I'm at. So even though it's not where I would necessarily like to be, I'm going to enjoy this because others want what I have. And so you're just kind of there. You've been given some valor. You've been given some nobility, some honor about you because of how far you've come in the eyes of the people. You seem mighty, but it's almost as if you've got some issue that you still want God to resolve. And that's how it was with Naaman. It was almost as if he had it all except that one thing that just could ruin everything. That's where you're at. In the eyes of the people, you got it made, but deep down, you got a problem where that issue could just really ruin some stuff. And you want so bad for God to do something. Maybe you've had some type of illness, disease, some type of issue. And maybe it's a hidden issue that people can't see, people don't know about, something that's easy for you to hide. Evidently, this leprosy was easy for Naaman to hide because, well, if it was obvious and exposed, if it was on an area of his skin where it was easy for people to see, he probably wouldn't be in that position anymore. He wouldn't be captain over all those men. And so you just need God to just really help you out. And God is just letting you be in that state as a reminder that it really just represents what's going on in you when it comes to your happiness. Just like how you have this hidden issue, you've got some hidden hurts, some hidden pains, some things that you just haven't dealt with, that bitterness, that sadness, that jealousy, seeing somebody else living the life you really want to live. And you have all that fostered in you and you hold it in. And so that issue that you have really is just a representation of that. Now you understand what I'm saying. The sooner you can let go of the past, the sooner you can walk into the future. But you got to be willing also to give you a push. You got to help yourself. You got to, oh goodness. But let's keep going. Skip down to verse 9. What has happened between now and verse 9 is Naaman's wife has this little maid girl, and she knows how Naaman can get help. She knows a prophet that could help him out. And so Naaman is on this journey to come to the house of this prophet. So verse 9, so Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was wroth and went away and said, Behold, I thought he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and strike his hand over the place and recover the leper. Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. What has happened here is this. Naaman, he gets to the house of Elisha. Elisha has a messenger. Instead of him coming to talk to Naaman, he has a messenger come to talk to Naaman. And the directions that are given to Naaman is to go down to a specific river, the Jordan River, and wash 7 times. Dip down in it 7 times, and he will be healed of his leprosy. He will be cleansed. And Naaman, he's just not having it. He's upset that Elisha sent the messenger to come talk to him. He felt like it should have played out a certain way. He felt like it should have been Elisha himself coming to talked to him, and that the hand of God should have just came down from the heaven and just touched him. I mean, he had it all played out in his mind of how it should have been, all because he felt like he was just all that in a bag of chips, all because of who he was and his position and his title. Things should have played out a certain way for him. It should have just been beautiful and glorious and just magnificent how it should have all played out in his mind. But instead, the messenger is sent to him and tells him to go somewhere else to get this healing. And to top it off, out of all the things, out of all the rivers he could have went to wash in, it wouldn't be one of the cleaner, nicer rivers. It had to be one of the filthier rivers. And so he's mad about this. And basically what it comes down to is he's mad because he's going to have to humble himself a little bit. He's going to have to eat a slice of humble pie, as they say. Listen, it's not about something spectacular happen for people to see so they can go, ooh, ah, right? He has to go somewhere, get down in some filthy water to get clean. He's going to have to humble himself a little bit. And that's what I have to say for whoever this is for. You've gotten so used to being in that position where people, look up to you or admire you or want to be where you're at, and you've kind of got on your high horse just a little bit about it. And now that you may have to humble yourself and stand out and do something that takes you out of your element of being all that in a bag of chips, you don't like that risk. You don't like getting out of that comfort zone, because it's almost as if you feel like if you lose that admiration from folks, in your mind it's like you're losing it all, because you're thinking, okay, I already can't live the life that I wanted to live. I don't need to lose this over here, because that's all I got. I don't need to do something that's going to make me stand out too much from these folks. I don't need to do something that's going to take away from my valor and from my nobility and from the honor that's been bestowed upon me. But if you will get off that high horse and be willing to go down, right? That's what he had to do, dip down 7 times. If you're willing to get off that high horse and go as low as you can go, because that's really all it represented, was him lowering or humbling or debasing himself so that God could exalt him. Notice, not man exalting him, but God. Oh my goodness. God wants to do something for you. He wants to lift you up. He wants to take you on higher ground. He wants to get you from point A to B to C to D and so on. But the longer you cling to what all these folks think, who want your little spot, your little title, your little position, your life, unless you're willing to quit worrying about what they think, you're going to hold yourself back. You just look at it as you're just going to hold that person back. That person that you just like to watch struggle to go through some stuff. But really, just like how they're being held back, you're holding yourself back, because that's you. Oh my goodness. You're holding yourself back, because God can easily use someone else to help that person out, and then all of them gonna move forward, and guess what you'll be doing? Still paralyzed, still standing still. Come on. Okay. Let's move on. Look at this. So he's mad about it. Verse 13. And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then when he saith to thee, Wash and be clean? So a servant that has come along with Naaman stops him before he leaves and does something stupid. He stops him and says, oh no, go ahead and do what he told you to do. What he asked you to do was so much simpler than what he could have asked you. But if he had asked you to do something greater, you would have done it. Just go ahead and do it. Go ahead and dip in the Jordan. So he's talking some sense into him. And basically that's what I'm here doing right now in this sermon, whoever this is for. I'm just talking sense into you. I know you don't look at me like I'm much. I know you probably look at me like I'm a little beneath you. You might look at me as nothing more but a little servant, if you will. But all right, that's cool, because it was the servant of Naaman that talked some sense into him. Let's move on. I could stay on that one for a minute, but I'm gonna move on. Verse 14, then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh came again, like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. So he went on ahead. He did what God wanted him to do. He let the servant talk some sense into him. He dips down 7 times, and not only was the leprosy removed, but his skin was restored to the point where it was like he had the skin of a child. Or as we would say today, smooth as a baby's bottom. Come on. In other words, if you would just do what it is that God's wanting you to do, and you'd be willing to humble yourself and help somebody out. Help yourself, because that's really what it all represents. It's all symbolic. If you would do that, not only can he help you and heal you of what your issue is, he can also restore. Now let me say this. For those of you who you listened to what I was talking about a moment ago in Joel, about God restoring to you what the cankerworm and the palmer worm and the locust ate up and all that, getting your blessings back and your life back, what you wanted to do in life, and you know what I mean, getting your life back, getting to do what you wanted to do so bad, giving it all back to you, you probably thought to yourself, well, because I'm older and because of the situation I'm in or the circumstance that I'm in, even if I were to receive those blessings to me now and I could live that life that I want so bad to live, I wouldn't be able to, because I'm older, because I'm in a certain situation, a certain circumstance. I've got ties to some certain folks that would just hold me back. I will not be allowed to do this. You don't understand. I'm older. I'm further down the line. I don't see how it's going to work. First of all, let me just say, you don't have to figure it out. Just let God do it. He knows. He knows things that you don't know. There's things going on behind the scenes that he could work out, that could move some folks out the way if you would just walk out in faith. He's got it. He's got it covered. You just got to believe. You got to have faith. You got to act in faith. You got the easy part, really. God, he has the task of moving that debris out of the way, if that's how you want to say it. He can do it. He can do what you can't. If you do what he wants you to do, he'll do the rest. He'll do what you can't do. So that's the one thing, the first thing that you need to know is he's got it. You don't have to figure it out. But also this, in reference to what I just talked about here in 2 Kings with Naaman, when I said not only did God heal him, but he was restored, youth-wise, restored in his body. The same can happen for you. So not only can all those blessings come back to you and that life that you wanted can come to you, but it's almost as if you will be transformed in mind and body, and that youthfulness that you would want to be able to live that life and to fully enjoy those blessings, that can be restored to you as well. You might be listening thinking, what? That doesn't make any sense. All right, what are you talking about? That don't happen. What are you talking about? I do know. Let me tell you this. I used to have a picture. I don't have it anymore, but there was a picture of me from some years ago. It was like after I had graduated high school and after I had dropped out of college. It was maybe probably some months after dropping out or something like that. But somewhere in that time period, there was a picture that I took with somebody. And I don't have it. I got rid of it because I don't want to be reminded of the past. I've moved forward from it. It is what it is. But when I did have that picture, I showed it to a friend of mine, and he had a hard time believing that who he saw in the picture was me. He said it didn't even look like me. But the reason why, and I saw what he meant when I looked at myself in the picture, that person looked so much older than me. It looked like an older version of me, but it was me from years ago. It really did. I looked so much older in the picture. I actually looked older than what my age was, but now, according to a lot of people, I look younger than what my age is. Okay? And as I recall, during that time, I was around bad influences. I was around people I really shouldn't have been around. I was around some folks that really was, for real, used by the devil. I was around some not so great influences. And I wasn't really living how I really should have been. But then again, my mind was not focused on God at the time. I hadn't been building up that relationship with God just yet. I hadn't gotten to that point in my life yet. And so it's funny because now I'm 28, and I don't know how I look to you guys on camera, on video, but people, when they see me in person and they get to know me, they don't know me yet, but they get to know me, eventually they'll ask how old I am. And when I tell them, they've always had a hard time believing it. For quite a few years now, people just have a hard time. They always tell me I look younger than what I am. There are people that still think that I should be in high school still, And the super funny thing that I recently realized is that I've noticed this pattern of how a lot of times people think I'm about 10 years, exactly 10 years younger than what I am. For example, when I was 26 and people would ask me how old I was, and I tell them, they'd be like, "What? I thought you'd be like 16. You look like you'd be about 16. Then when I was 27, people were like, "What? I thought you'd be about 17. Now that I'm 28, everybody's like, "What? I thought you'd be about 18. As a matter of fact, just a couple of nights ago, because as some of you know, I'm working a new job that I've been at a few weeks now, but a couple of nights ago, this guy who was talking to me, kind of getting to know me, he asked me how old I was, and when I told him I was 28, he was like, I thought you would be about 18 or 19. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. I don't know what it is with this 10-year gap thing. People think I'm 10 years younger than what I really am, but people just get so mind blown by it. And so listen, I'm here to tell you, you don't think God can restore some stuff? You don't think God can bring some youthfulness back to you and bring some blessings that have slipped out of your hands to you, or give you better than what slipped away? You don't think God can let you live some of that life that you wanted so bad, but you missed out on it trying to be a people pleaser and trying to play roles and fit in and blend in, when God called you and chose you to stand out and be different and be separate among so many others? Anyway, take from that what you will. But whoever this is for, I've given you your answers. You can have it. God wants to do something for you, in you, for you, through you. But the question is, will you help yourself? And I'm going to wrap this up by saying this. Imagine you're working, I don't know, maybe at a retail store or a fast food restaurant or somewhere where you would work at a cash register. And let's say there's a line of customers in front of you, and somebody comes up. And what would you say? You would say, "Hello, can I help you? Or may I help you? Hello, welcome to so-and-so. Can I help you?" Right? And then they would tell you what their order is, what it is that they're trying to purchase. And you are going to do something to help them out, to be of service to them, do some type of work to get them what they want so that they will give you money to put in your register. And that's how some of us are with God. We just look at God as, well, I'm standing here, and when he approaches me, I'm going to say, "Okay, God, how can I help you? What work can I do for you? Because I want to do some works for you to please you." right? That's how we feel. Like it's all about works. Yeah, faith without works is dead, but at the same time, works is not what's going to get us into heaven. We don't really dig into grace and all that the way that we should, that his grace is sufficient for all of us, that God, he's got us in the palm of our hands. It's not about us always being perfect. It's not always about us doing fancy works for him all the time. That's not what saves us. It's salvation. It's our faith in Jesus Christ that saves us. But we got so many folks that just have that mindset of, if I can just do some works, if I can just do some things to impress God, then that means I'm going to be all in the clear. I just got to keep being busy doing this and that. And so we have that mindset of when God comes up, we're just going to say, hello, how can I help you, God? And God's going to give us a request, and then we're going to go and do that request, and then we can come back with our hand out like, okay, give me the cash to put in my register. Right? If you think about it, that's kind of how we do God sometimes. So now check this out. Imagine you're standing there, you're at your register, and God comes up to you. God's at the front of the line, and he has in his hand a mirror, and he's holding it out face level to you, and he's just holding it like, and he's wanting you to look in the mirror at yourself. And what he's wanting you to do, instead of looking at him and saying, how can I help you? He's wanting you to look in the mirror at yourself and say, hello, can I help me? Oh my goodness. I'm going to wrap this up. Now I'm just acting a fool. Okay, let me pray us out of here. I'm just having fun now. I'm showing out. Let me wrap this up. Heavenly Father, I thank you for another time to minister another message, Lord. I thank you, God. Lord, I just pray that whoever needs this message will grab a hold of this message, that they will tune in, that they will accept what it is that you're trying to tell them. Lord, let us be a people who, instead of being people pleasers, we will want to please you. And one of the ways to please you is to be of help to ourselves sometimes. Yes, we have to do works. Yes, it's important for us to be there for others and help folks, but sometimes we got to take a moment to help ourselves. And sometimes part of helping ourselves is really to help those who are really just representations of ourselves. Lord, the reason why we go through things and obstacles in life a lot of times is so that we will have a testimony built up. And that testimony serves to help others who are going through the same things that we went through. And so a lot of times the way to unlock our blessings is really to help some other folks get to their blessings. In other words, God, sometimes you bless us so that we can be a blessing to someone else. And the more that we can pour out, the more you can pour into us. And we're like vessels. We're like cups. Like when the word says our cup overfloweth, we can be that cup that overflows. You pour in, we pour out into somebody else, and you just keep pouring in, and we just keep getting filled. And Lord, I thank you, Lord. I thank you for that. Lord, I give you all the praise, the glory, and honor. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.